and welcome to Difficulty Settings. Difficulty Settings is an interview-style program where we talk a little bit about how my life is affected because of my disability. And so each interview we talk a little bit about how my disability affects all different aspects of my life. In this interview session, we're going to be talking more about how my disability affects my interactions with the public and the Edmonton community, and how I navigate talking with them and building relationships within my community. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you'll check out some of the other episodes, and I hope that you'll learn a little bit more about myself and about yourselves along the way. So thank you. My name is Sarah von Gertzen. I am 27 years old. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and I am a filmmaker, and I'm also disabled. So I have a couple different things. So I have migraines are my main debilitating pain. And with it, I get visual symptoms and some dizziness. And then more recently, I've been having some joint pain, some lower back pain, and a lot of kind of like automatic nervous system type issues. So like with my heart racing and my sweating at inconvenient times, and a couple different mysterious type symptoms. And that is what I'm currently on the road to discover what's causing all of those things right now. Today I'm feeling okay. I got a lot of back pain and it's really sharp. So it's a little bit uncomfortable, and I feel like I'm a little more like wiggly than usual because of it. But yeah, the last interview we did was about my career, and I'm still like a little bit nervous about it. I have a lot of like imposter syndrome type feelings about it. But I'm really happy that I got to talk about it, because I'm really, really excited about my career, and it's such a huge source of passion for me. I'm always thinking of ideas and things that I want to make. And I think it's like really important sometimes for me to practice what that feeling uncomfortable with talking about it, because I feel like such a huge imposter in my career, and I feel like what I'm making isn't important. And I like exercising like that uncomfortable feeling, because I know I'm very passionate about things, and I know people like people when they talk about what they're passionate about. For this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about how my disability affects me when I'm interacting with the public and the Edmonton community. So we'll be talking a little bit about what it's like when I interact kind of like with cashiers, or I go out, and how I interact with kind of like social type groups in Edmonton. I personally have a hard time going out in public by myself. I definitely, when I first started getting sick in 2011, and when I recovered from it and I was on the recovery and I was starting to have these debilitating symptoms of migraines, I was definitely like a mall walker. So I would go with my mom and we would walk the mall and just sit and look around. But I kind of found that the longer that my migraines went on, I kind of retreated from that. I think it had a lot to do with also like I got huge anxiety flare-ups when I would go out, and I would feel so uncomfortable and I'd be so scared for something to happen. And sometimes I'd be like kind of I like, especially in the beginning when I started having these debilitating symptoms, I would think that, oh, if I do enough stuff, it will eventually go away and I'll get better and I won't have to worry or feel this bad. And then it never went away. So I definitely fell into kind of a little bit of a depression. And that's when my depression started getting really, really bad. And then from then, I am definitely not at all an outside in public type person. I have to go out with a support person. I cannot go out, well, I can, but I found it very, very difficult to go out in public by myself. And it's very, very challenging for me. But yes, so I'm definitely not a public type of person. I usually have a support person there, so that's usually my mom, or if one of my friends goes with me, um, or if we're ever like filming something, I always have to have like certain crew members with me, because I'm very like comfortable with those crew members. Um, so yeah, it can pose a little bit of a challenge, I think, when going out, but I wouldn't say like I I like crave going out much anymore. I think it's something more that I dread and don't really want to do, because it's something that's really, really hard. And it's really hard to practice, I think, when you have a disability, being like, I don't want to go out and get like these bad feelings. Um, but then like you have to do that in order to get rid of those like initial like anxiety bad feelings. Um, and it's hard to keep going with that, I think. It can feel very overwhelming to do something in public by myself. I have a lot of like anxiety, and it's kind of like that cycle of like I get really anxious, and then I'm gonna feel like really sore, or I'm gonna feel really bad, and then I'll get like really sore, and I'll feel really bad, and then I'll be like, my anxiety will be like, see it, that's what it is, which is very classic like anxiety, and very classic OCD, all these little cycles that keep feeding into each other over and over. And I I find it's very hard for me to break those. And it's very hard for me to manage my symptoms without a safety net. And I feel like that's something that I kind of am realizing about myself, is that I don't feel like I'm safe with myself. Like I wouldn't know what to do if something were to happen, if an emergency were to happen. And so I really look to my support person to help me be that safety net. But I definitely feel like in the future, not anytime soon, but in the future, I would love to be able to feel like that secure with just myself. When I have to do errands, or I have to go somewhere like an event, or a specific set of like a social hangout or something else like that, it can be a lot to handle. Usually to prepare beforehand, especially with errands, I try to like plan a week in advance. So whatever I'm doing, not to worry about it like this week unless I absolutely have to do it. Um, and that's what that week that I'm on is like saved for, is like emergencies or something that I absolutely have to do. So I'll try to plan like errands, like if I have to go shopping or if I have to do something else like that. Um, I'll usually do it in a week advance, so the next week, and then I'll look into planning it. And so I need to plan who's going to take me. Um, if I don't feel well that day, what other day can I do it on? Um, Usually I have to pick out what I'm gonna wear, specifically my shirt, because sometimes I can get really anxious if collars are too tight on shirts. When I'm out in public, it can be like feel very like claustrophobic for me. Um, and then I need to just relax and prepare myself physically, and making sure that I'm sleeping, I'm eating well. If I have to take a shower for whatever the thing is, and I can't just like wear a hat, um, I'll usually then have to plan around doing that the day before. And usually, if I'm taking a shower, those are really, really tiring for me if I take a shower or a bath. So I have to do it at the end of the night or before my nap. Because if I don't and I have a shower and then have to go somewhere, I'm gonna fall asleep. Um, it's so physically taxing for me to have to stand that long. I get so dizzy and I get so sore really quickly. Um, and then when I'm going out somewhere, or like on the day, usually I'll go with whoever I'm going with, so my friends or my mom or whoever, or my crew if we're filming a film. Um, and then I'll try to practice like mindfulness, doing a little bit of relaxation in the car or wherever I have to go if I'm on a bus, um, which is also another thing that's like super hard for me. That's when my like the main thing I need to focus on is like my anxiety. I don't really see anything else other than my anxiety. My anxiety gives me like tunnel vision. Um, and then when I'm there, I usually have to just watch how I move and making sure I'm not moving too quickly. So if my friends are walking a lot faster than me, I need to make sure that I'm slowing my pace down and not trying to like match their pace. Especially when I have my cane, because I can get really tired really fast or really sore. And making sure I'm not bending and making sure I'm not carrying anything heavy. And then that we're like kind of planning strategically. So if we park at one place, is it beneficial to get back into the car and like drive a block, or is it beneficial to walk, or should we park in the middle, like that kind of stuff. Like I feel like I have social anxiety, so it feels like there's a lot of like fear avoidance in generalized anxiety and social anxiety. Um, so I feel like I'm always on edge. Like my anxiety is very high, um, and recently when I started using a cane, I have like the urge, or like all of that anxiety that I have worked so hard on managing when I am out is like it's almost like I've forgotten all of that, and now I need to relearn all of it again because it's like a new kind of like situation altogether. I just feel so overwhelmed all the time when I'm out in public. It's like there's so much noise, there's so many people. I have to deal with like having like OCD of like I feel like everyone is gonna make me sick, and I feel like I'm gonna get sick, and I feel like I'm gonna make people sick. But then it's also like I need to like juggle like having a cane and holding things. Like, am I gonna drop stuff? How am I gonna manage all of this stuff? And that kind of like huge circus of emotions, I feel like is a big thing. So one of the biggest challenges that I've found, especially in the Edmonton community, and this is like across the board of like film, social gatherings, clubs, and kind of like events. One of the biggest things I find so challenging about these things in Edmonton community is like they always book things for like, oh, this is happening next weekend. The turnaround time between when it's announced to when it actually is so short. And it's really hard. I understand it's very hard to plan an event, and sometimes things catch up to things, or things catch up to people, and they don't have like a complete amount of time to announce it. But usually that makes me feel like it's impossible for me to go to these things and go to these different events, especially if it's like a class or a workshop that's going to be like more than like 2 hours, um, or like a network event that's like more than 2 hours, because like 2 hours is my max if I'm just like dropping in and not really talking to anybody. But if I have to sit down in a classroom setting and learn something, or if I have to talk to a whole bunch of people that I don't know, it's really, really hard for me to plan that around my disability. And I feel like that would be the one thing that I would like love to change about the Edmonton community. Like that's my one biggest pet peeve, is that plan your events for like next month and make sure to talk to people about it and be telling them about it for like every time you see them. Make a newsletter, send out emails, hey, this is happening next month, because it's very hard, I think, for at least me with my disability to work around that and to plan such short notice trips, because I already have like this whole month planned out. And I think I talked a little bit about this in another episode where my personal life, how when I had a disability, everything changed. Where because I see so many specialists and it takes so long in Edmonton and I think everywhere right now to get in to see a specialist. I'm looking, my calendar is like, instead of just being like, I'm just looking at this month, it's like I'm looking at 6 months all in advance at any given time. And it's like, I'm planning around, okay, I'm right here and I see this specialist like in September at the end of the year. Um, and I'm filling in the gaps from basically from like September back. And it can fill up really quickly with things that I need to do and to keep breaks. And yeah, and make sure you have sitting areas in events. It can be really hard and it can feel really um, bad. One of the biggest things is like I'm really into, obviously I've talked about how I'm into games and movies and things like that, and there's these great conventions that happen in Edmonton and the surrounding area, and there's these great clubs that meet all the time. Um, but I with these huge events, it's so hard for disabled community members to like make it. One, usually the area isn't like that accessible, like getting to the wherever it is. And if there's a lot of people, usually they remove all the sitting areas to stop um, the flow of traffic, to make sure that there's a flow of traffic of people and people aren't stopping. It's really hard for disabled community members to be um, standing and walking all the time. So have a break area. But those are just small pet peeves that I suffer from, and it's really hard to complain. I feel so bad to say, as a disabled person, this is what I need. And I feel that's just like, that's a little bit of my anxiety, but I also think it's like this weird society type thing that like, oh, if it's my disability, it's my problem and I need to like figure it out myself. And I think that's such a wrong mentality, that we need to take care of other community members, and that's how we're going to grow and learn different perspectives and see all these different people and live more fulfilling lives together as a community. And I think that's very, very important, to continue like feeding into that and doing that, and nurturing that and learning different things to make things easier. Um, yeah.
How do you feel?
Riled up.
Was that a good one?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Do you feel like it's a good answer?
Yeah. I hope that the audience takes away that from this episode specifically, that it can be really hard for some people in social situations, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that they are like upset with you or uncomfortable with you. It's nothing that you're doing sometimes. Sometimes it's just that they have generalized anxiety, or that they have social anxiety, and it can be really hard to be like in your head all the time. And sometimes it can be really tiring, and to be kind of like more understanding that sometimes people um, have different needs than what they need at the time. I know like a lot of my friends, there's some of them that they kind of don't understand what my accommodations are, and they have like a hard time knowing when to hang out with me. And I know that they asked me so many times to hang out on these spontaneous trips, and that's definitely not me. That doesn't work with my disability. And they stopped asking, and that was one of the biggest things for me, that I was like very heartbroken, because although I'm probably going to say no, it still feels like really nice to be asked. Because the one odd time that I do feel really good, I will say yes, with no hesitation. So I think just being aware of like what people need, um, not just physically, but like mentally, of like planning around, um, making sure things are in advance. If you want to do something with somebody, like specifically me, um, like if my friends want to hang out with me in person or go see a movie with me, they know that I definitely will not be comfortable going like opening weekend with like a lot of people. So they make sure to plan like a matinee or sometime when they know it's going to be quieter. And that's like really appreciative. It feels like really nice to know that they were thinking about, oh, we were thinking like we wanted to go see a movie with you, and I know that you have like challenges with these things, so like this is how I was thinking we could do it. And then that in turn like kind of makes me feel good. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. It makes me a little bit emotional. Sometimes it makes you feel like you're loved and that you're kind of like, it's not, it doesn't feel like it's like that much of like a huge stretch for somebody to do. Um, Especially like, oh, my friends do this like all the time for me. And um, especially it can be like little things and sometimes it can be big things, but um, most of the time they're really small things that like add so much love and appreciation to my life, I think, with my friends and what they do to help better accommodate me and make me feel like that I'm included in that they want me there. I know I've talked a little bit about it in the careers episode where I said that not to be like scared to ask for the things that you need. And it can be very strange sometimes saying that sometimes when you're in like social situations, you almost need accommodations. But I think it's important to bring up again where it's okay to tell your friends that this is what you need in order to be kind of like the best person you can be with them or the best to the best energy level almost. And I think being honest and open with people when you're meeting new people and making new friends will save you so much like energy and anxiety to be like, oh, they're going to think I'm so flaky or they're going to think that I'm blowing them off, and being honest and open about like, oh, I have a disability and it affects me in these ways. So if you want to hang out or do something like this again in the future, we need to do it like this, I think would be best, or try it like that. I feel like just being aware like of what your body needs and what you best need to do to accommodate yourself, especially in like strange new social situations, whatever you need to do to best like help yourself is what you need to do. There's no like workaround for that. I think that it's very important to stay true to what you need. I think not to be scared and to realize that you matter and that you're important and your well-being is important. I think that that's always something to keep in the back of your mind. I want to say thank you for tuning into this episode of Difficulty Settings. I hoped you learned a little bit more about disability and how it affects the other aspects in my life. And I hope that you learn a little bit more about yourselves along the way. I hope I can see you next time when we talk a little bit more about how my disability affects me.